I'm Chyler Leigh, and you're listening to You Might Know Her From with Anne and Damien.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of You Might Know Her From
with Anne and Damien.
Folks, hello. We are back here. This is our show. If you're new to the show, this is our show where we, queerdos, best friends, longtime collaborators, actress sexuals, what do we do, Anne?
We shoot the shit with each other. We talk about what we're watching, what we're reading, what we're consuming. We talk about our aging bodies, of course. And we sandwich all of that with an actress interview each and every episode. It's the thing that brought us together some 15, 16 years ago is a love of actress performances. And we're doing it here for you. So welcome back.
Can I just caveat here real quick with a little housekeeping before we get into, the vegetables before the meat and the potatoes, which is to say that if you're listening to this and you like what we're doing or you enjoy what we're doing in general here at You Might Know Her From, please leave us a written review wherever you're listening. It makes a significant difference for an independently produced podcast, and we have been short on some new reviews. So if you can leave us a review, that would be so lovely. But speaking of aging bodies, we were just talking before we started recording about the Indigo Girls and Liza and like what it is to be an artist and having your body age.
Yeah, I think I've been on an Indigo Girls tip post Denver when we interviewed Beth Malone, and she, of course, was fresh off of Starstruck, the musical that she wrote with Emily Saliers of the Indigo Girls. So I saw on TikTok that Emily and Amy posted this like very direct address video, and it was like maybe 5 or 6 minutes. And I thought, I'm going to watch this because they were both, sort of like posed for the cameras, like holding guitars, but like looking right at the camera. And they're going on tour with Melissa Etheridge, I think, again this summer. But Emily was talking about her voice and how she knows that folks have noticed the change in her voice and what they're trying to do to address that in their concerts this summer, because they know that their fans are looking for a certain sound from their harmonies and that her voice isn't able to do what it used to be able to do because of this medical condition. And so she talked a little bit about that and about the background singers that they're hiring to bring along to fill out some of their harmonies and how they're asking for grace from their audience, because part of this is about being in community and aging as an artist and what it is to sort of like try to still choose the best songs for where your voice is at right now, and that they hope that their audiences will still come out and see them and support them, but they wanted to be frank and clear about addressing what's had been like some scuttlebutt online of people saying Emily's voice isn't what it once was. And I just found it to be like a really lovely acknowledgement and also just like a clarifying statement from artists. And I thought it's what I love about being able to be in New York and have seen, performers that I love age. I've been here for 24 years or however long. It's like you get to see people that I saw in the 2000s and then you get to see them now and their voice sounds different than it did then. And I got to see Liza while she was still doing Liza's at the Palace. And then I saw her perform at Birdland. I saw her perform in Coney Island. And, when she was at Birdland, she had like fallen and she got carried on stage by two men in a chair and like lifted onto the Birdland stage and like sat down, and she had like a cast on her leg and like sang with one hand. I just feel like there's something beautiful and not disappointing about following an artist for a number of years. And I was just very moved by all of it. And so I think this is resonant for me because I finished Liza's book this week and I need Damien to finish it too so that we can be on top of it. We're going to recap it over at the Patreon. And I know there's been a lot of talk about how the AI of her book has made it difficult to listen to, which I concur with. But I have to say there's a lot of content there that Liza drops that is worth consuming and is rare.
We will be done by the time this episode drops. I will be done. And so when this episode drops the same week, we'll have the book club recap ready to go.
Damien is holding himself accountable now.
I've been really struggling to get over the hump, but I know Anne has sort of said like, Damien, once you pop, the fun won't stop. And I know that is true. I just haven't gotten popped yet, It's
hard, but I do think there's something surprising about what she reveals, even if it's not in the way that maybe it's not the most artful reveal. But I do think there's some connective tissue between the Indigo Girls thing and this about like what it is to follow an artist for a number of years and to show up for them as an audience member, regardless of where they are in voice, and I know it's hard if ticket prices are $150. Don't you want somebody to be able to hit the notes that they once could hit? Sure. But like bodies are bodies and you can't always do what you once could. And I just think there is something beautiful about being a fan of the arts and following someone through their entire career. And there's something about the mortality of it all and the beauty of the community and fandom and all of it that was like really hidden something special for me. So anyway, love the Indigo Girls. It's my mission this summer. You're going to finish Liza. I feel like my lesbian card, you know, I don't even say that, but it's like, I know the Indigo Girls, but I don't know them as well as
I'm
I
seeing
should.
them if you want to join.
Oh my God, that's right. You are. I need to remedy this because I've never seen them live. And I really only know I only know like 3 hits, and that's embarrassing.
Well, that's ironic because 3 hits is one of their songs. 3 hits to the heart. Anyone I need a lot of Indigo Girls fan is like, stop now, please. You're coming out of my whatever car they're driving. What kind of car?
Subaru.
I do want to say I think it was beautifully said, Anne. So well done. And I think I agree. Like, I feel like I've been in the ether at the time of this recording. I feel like the universe is like, there's a lot of good energy around women artists of a certain age. And what I mean by that is, like, I just saw that clip of Marilyn Maye doing Before the Parade Passes By on Instagram. And I was like, oh my gosh, this woman is like in her 80s. And
Damien, she's in her 90s.
She sounded like very like wonderful, but you know, it's like, again, she is like a cabaret star for years, and it was cool to see her on stage performing live. We had seen Darlene Love, like, I don't know, at this point, like 10 years ago now, and she was like in her early 80s then, and she was sounding so great. So it's like, but it's different, right? And then I'm also just thinking that, like, we just saw Jennifer Tilly back on the stage recently in New York, and I was so happy, like, wow, this woman hasn't been on the New York stage in years. And then there was rumors that she was going to be on White Lotus, and then Susan Sarandon and Gina Davis both just were at Coachella with Sabrina Carpenter, and I was just like, wow, I feel like there's something in the air for women over 50, and I hope that they are feeling that too in the roles and the things, because I know that it's tough out here. But, well, you know, if there's one thing that You Might Know It From is going to do, it's always going to be, you know, to me, the young actors are like 40. So, like, totally. You know, I'm here for the Renaissance, the Gina Davis Renaissance, you know?
And not to derail this, but she is not in this category, but I do think it's worth mentioning that you had like somewhat religious experience at Demi Lovato, who is not over 50, but has like been through the ringer as a child star and as a young performer. And I feel like that's like also in conversation in terms of like supporting an artist who has been through a lot and like seeing their entire trajectory. It's really interesting.
Yeah, it was interesting. And I kept thinking about, you know, not that she is Judy Garland, you know, but the idea that this is all that a person knows is because they grew up in the business, and this is like, she can sing. She knows that. She knows it's also how she can pay her bills and probably pay for her family's bills. And I know she has struggled with a lot, and I think she's been so candid with what she has struggled with. I went with friends to see her at Madison Square Garden. We had great seats on the floor. Shout out to Didi Fuego. Thanks for bringing me. And I was like, oh, I'll know like some of the songs because I know most of the hits. I don't know if I can name them by name. And then I was like, I knew every song. One of the songs that I met some guy at the bar was like, what song are you most excited to hear? And I was like, and I was trying not to say like a basic song. Like, I was trying to be interesting because it's like my, you know, my like life's work. And he was like, you can just say anything. You can just say like Cool for the Summer. I was like, is that what you want to hear the most? And he was like, no, but, and I was like, oh, and I was like, I want to hear that Cheryl Lloyd song. And he was like, which one? And I was like, I don't know, bitch. And then it was like her closing song. Oh, and I was like amazed. I was like really proud of myself. But I felt like the whole experience was very like, I was so impressed with her abilities as a singer. And it's not like her voice is good. It is impressive. But it was just like, I was like, wow, I'm like on a dance floor at Madison Square Garden, essentially. And this woman is like on stage by herself performing for a sold out crowd. Like, how vulnerable. Like, I never got to see like Judy Garland do that. And again, I'm not saying Demi Lovato is equal to Judy Garland, but I think there is something to be said about like growing up in the machine, continuing to do it, even if maybe that's like not the best thing for your health, but also it's like all that I know. It is like the way that I process. She brought her husband or boyfriend up and was like, I know this is like cringe, but also we've been talking about doing it. So like, we got to, and then they sang, and I was like, it is kind of.
Did they sing like a Gavin DeGraw song or something? What did they sing?
Oh my God, I don't remember. I did video it because I was like, this is wild. And I was like, but like, it's kind of like how people probably felt when Judy Garland was getting married, and they were like, probably like by their radios being like, I hope she's okay now. Like, I hope he'll help keep her on the straight and narrow. And that's how I felt. I was like, I know this is kind of cringe, but like, she seems good. And like, if he's like making sure she goes to PT and like takes her medicine and is like staying good and staying surrounded by like good people, then like, cool, I can like let him ride her coattails or something, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I just love women performers, and
100%.
That's why we're here. And I think that this week's interview is a real testament to like what you discover. Like, it's like I had no preconceived notions about Demi Lovato. Like, there was no judgment going into it, but I was really surprised. And I think we were both really surprised and pleased with how much depth we uncovered in this week's guests, career, Chyler Leigh, just like the emotional depth that she has to reach in her body of work is really impressive, and that she has access to all of that, I think is very cool. And I feel like we could have talked more about like her well of emotion, and she would have answered it pretty candidly. So I think you're going to enjoy this one.
You might know her from Grey's Anatomy,
Supergirl,
Not Another Teen Movie,
and The Way Home. Oh my gosh, huge day here at You Might Know Her From. We are here with actor and singer Chyler Leigh. Chyler, thank you so much for joining us here on the show.
I'm so glad to be here. Thank you so much.
We're really so grateful, and we're excited to talk to you today because at the time of this recording, it is the lead up to the 4th and final season premiere of your Hallmark series, The Way Home. Okay, we have a lot to get into with it. So the show is like a fantasy drama about 3 generations of women in the Landry family. This is like my elevator log line, like of how to tell like my friends to watch it. I would say like tonally, it's like One Tree Hill meets Pushing Daisies, but with time travel and an elder millennial soundtrack. You like that?
Can't even put it into an elevator pitch. I've tried for 4 years. And I can't do it.
I was like, oh, I'm really in it with the show. And so I was like, oh, like, and the soundtrack is so good. You play Kat, a woman navigating grief in many ways while you and your family begin to time travel to the past. I am all in on this show. What can you like blanketly tease our listeners about season 4 and this final season?
Season 4, it was challenging because at the end of season 3, there are so many loose ends. And that's kind of the thing with shows in general, right? You have to kind of be ready to close the show at any season or be ready to have cliffhangers for the next one, right? So our writers, showrunners, producers, I mean, first of all, they are absolutely phenomenal. They are like brilliant, like masterminds. I have no idea how they have done what they've done. And so at the end of season 3, there were so many opportunities to do just bigger and better, or, even just a matter of bringing a lot of these storylines at that time to a close. But every time in Way Home fashion, it's like, every question that is answered brings up another question. And so watching season 3, when I was watching it, because I would always, tune in on Hallmark when we would air, and I watch it with my daughters, and I'm watching with my older daughter on the finale, and all of a sudden it's hitting me and I'm going, oh my God, that's what that meant. Oh my God, that's why I did that in that scene. And like watching all of these things kind of come full circle, and leading into season 4, there's always time that passes in between the seasons. And we have to do that from a technical standpoint because we're filming in Toronto, right? And the weather, obviously it's cold, gets very, very cold. And we're dealing with the pond, which is a real man-made pond, frogs and all, right? And it gets cold. There's no way to heat it, because it disturbs the natural environment and like ecosystem of the pond. So when we jump in, we're jumping in water, towards the end of the season at 51, 52 degrees when it's colder than that outside of the water.
You're telling me that there's like algae in this water,
Oh, there's bugs, frogs, there's leaves, there's muck and mud on the bottom that gets kicked up anytime you jump in. And it's not super duper deep. Like, it's safe for us to dive in, obviously. But once you get there, you have about a foot between the bottom of your feet and the mud underneath. So even when we're under and we're swimming and we have to shoot up, we kind of don't have anything to shoot up off of, because your boots or shoes or whatever hit the mud and it's like, and then you're trying to like propel yourself up. It's not super classy, looks great on camera and in the scenes. So when you see us pop up in desperation, it's usually because we're desperate to get to the surface and it's freaking cold.
Can you talk about like when you at least in the first season, when you're underwater, like they show you underwater, and I assume this is shot in like a tank or something. Like, it seems cool, but also maybe like a nightmare. Like, what is that? Like, when you're immersed, are you like in a huge tank in like a soundstage?
So funny enough, we're actually, I wish it was a soundstage. I wish it was a tank. It's actually each year been our director of photography's pool in his backyard.
Straight. I love it. I love how the sausage is made, Chyler.
Oh my God. I'm telling you, it's like for you to see the setup is absolutely wild because he's got to put black cloth over everything on top. So there's like the scaffolding that has to be built basically because we have to block out all the light from over top. And then he has to use tarps to tarp the bottom of his pool and create like different dimensions in there so that it looks like it's the bottom of the pond, right? And then we have to recreate the rocks and then we bring in the ferns. And so it's incredible what they do. And our water safety team is absolutely phenomenal. And so our head of the team, her name is Carly, she has this massive, beautiful camera. And so she films us from underneath, right? It is so chlorinated because we're going in with our shoes. We're going in. You got extra people in there. You've got people that underneath the water will either tie something around your feet or like grab you from a harness underneath to yank you back, which makes it look like we're being pulled. And then what else? So I'm naturally positively buoyant. So there's 3 levels, right? You're negatively buoyant or you're neutral buoyant or you're positively buoyant. I am positively buoyant naturally. So I'm wearing weights, even when I'm in my full wardrobe and costume and like 1800 stuff, like the real heavy things, I still got to put on weights. Now, I'm a scuba diver. So for me, like when I'm in there, I'm in my nice little natural environment. But the circumstances of being zoinked, like back into the abyss is wild. And so because a lot of times when we're underwater, we have to like, you're in desperation, right? It's not like you're down there being pretty. It's like you're screaming to get the F out, right? So by the time we get to the surface in the pool, the amount of water that I have swallowed from that pool in my lifetime could probably fill up, I should say in these 4 years could fill up for a lifetime.
I love it. I mean, we're talking about Mission Impossible before we started recording, and I feel like you're getting the Mission Impossible experience filming the way home.
Yeah. And what's so wonderful about it is that we're so ready to be traumatized for all of you to enjoy how beautiful it looks in retrospect.
Well, thank you, because it is interesting. For our listeners that haven't watched, just to clarify, it's a pond that helps you time travel. So the pond is obviously a part of like the fantastical aspect of the show, but you have to do a lot of like emotional heavy lifting on top of what we just learned is a bunch of underwater stunts. So like,
yes,
did you have to figure out how to like nail the givens of the scene when the givens of the scene are somewhat fantastical? Like, how did you find a way to ground the material when you were dealing with all of the otherworldliness?
Well, 2 things. One, I could pull from my experience of being on a comic book show for seasons where the Department of Extra Normal Operations. So I could say that at least there was that. So I'm really great at like faking stuff if I have to. But no, the groundedness, a lot of it actually just comes from the dialogue itself. It also comes from like our own emotional ties to the characters where, they learned our language so well that when we speak, like our dialogue then becomes almost like an extension of who we are as people and as actors. And the emotions of it are written so real and raw that even though it makes no sense that we have a magical time traveling pond on our family farm that nobody knew about, for generations, it still does keep that own groundedness in it because the through line of the show obviously is family and fighting for your family and finding what the different generations, like how you can bring together a family that has been through trauma and, like terrifying moments and loss and grief. So to be able to kind of pull from what we built up from the very beginning was kind of easy in a sense to be able to carry it all the way through.
So, Chyler, our listeners might best know you as Lexi Gray, who you played for several seasons on Grey's Anatomy, and you got to cover a lot of emotional ground from romantic, professional drama, family drama, life and death. But I think from what our research has proven, other actors have said about you that your emotions are very close to the surface, which you had sort of alluded to before we got on this call. In terms of these, people have said this is something that you have access to. And I feel like, those shoot days, I'm assuming, were quite long. Was Grey's sort of a nighttime soap the ultimate test of your craft in terms of what you were asked to do emotionally on a day-to-day basis with a short amount of time?
I was walking into a show, I joined the show the last 2 episodes of season 3. The show was already this behemoth of a show. And this anomaly of how what this show became so quickly. So I was unbelievably intimidated. I was terrified walking in because, anytime you join a show after it's already started being established, it's like walking into somebody else's house for the first time and having dinner at their table. Do you know what I mean? It's like you are joining something that has been already so well established, and especially because it hit so hard, it's like that was wildly intimidating. And I had such an incredible experience of walking into that show. I never even auditioned for it. I sat with Betsy Beers and Shonda Rhimes, and they just wanted to sit and have a conversation because one of the exec producers on the show I had worked with on another show. And he was like, hey, they knew who the character was going to be. They didn't tell me anything. It's all like the NDR too, right? So it's it was by word of mouth. Shout out to Rob Korn. He's amazing. And then they said, well, hey, why don't you come down and have an audition and or not an audition, but just have a meeting, have a general meeting. And I'm like, oh my God, okay, that's amazing. Who would the character be for it? They're not saying anything. They're cool. So I'm 24.
Wow.
Wait, 25 because I just had my second child. So I go in and we sit down together. We talk for 35 minutes or so. I'm just being myself, just being kind of I don't know what I'm doing here. Hey, answering questions. And it was a great conversation. I left kind of going, okay, well, I don't know what that was, but grateful to at least be in the room. And by the time I got home, my manager got a phone call saying that we want Chyler to come on as a guest star for a 3-episode arc. But they already had it planned out that my character was going to be a regular. Didn't say that to me. Didn't even tell me who the character was. So it wasn't until shortly before, and I had to keep everything under wraps. I couldn't say anything to anybody at any time. And it wasn't until shortly before I got the very first script that they said, because initially it was just girl at the bar. And then they were like, by the way, you're Lexi Gray, Meredith's sister.
Oh my God.
I was like, what? So when I walked into it, it was so wildly terrifying, but everybody was so lovely. And it was really my first time getting handed a show with such emotional depth. And it was so challenging because also Lexi had a photographic memory and she's this brilliant genius. And it's all this doctor speak. And I didn't know what I was saying half the time. Luckily, I was younger and had a much better memory. And Shonda, again, her writing, you kind of how do you really compare that to? So you can't. Only to so many people, a handful of people in this industry. And Lexi would just go, blah, 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 blah. But so it was technically challenging in that way, but it was also, emotionally, what a ride. And then when Slexi became this really big thing, it was even more at stake to make sure that I was doing it right. I was also hated in the very beginning.
Yeah.
Because when I came in, at the bar, and then they started calling me McSlutty because it's like trying to take Derek away. And I was like, y'all, settle down.
The fan base is intense.
Yeah, I was like, just give me a shot. Give me a minute. Hold on. And then at that point, she did become a beloved character, and I will always be grateful for my time on the show and for the challenges that they gave me.
Yeah.
Because they gave me a lot of opportunities to play comedic as well. So they kind of like gave me such a spectrum to play with. I was so honored and like flattered that they would allow me to kind of like, okay, doink, we're dropping you in here. Go figure it out. I'm like, cool.
I feel like if you lived through that era with Grey's, we all watched The Ascent, and then it was sort of like in the zeitgeist and this very popular thing. But when you walked in on your first season, was there anybody that sort of set you at ease, or like somebody you could like make eyes with who you're like, oh, thank God that person is like actor, set, crew, whatever?
Sandra Oh really took me under her wing. She is a phenomenon. That woman, like, I've never seen somebody be so prepared. Like, when you would see her scripts, the sticky notes, like all of the notes that she would have, and like just this character that she had created was so rich and so densely packed, like with, yes, emotion, but just, her ferocity as a character also stemmed from her ferocity as an actor. And initially she, Christina hated Lexi. And so it was like, she kind of came in and she was like, hey girl, we got this. And Chandra Wilson, oh my God, that woman is like a mother of all mothers. And she was always there. Justin Chambers, he was so fun to work with. I absolutely adored him. I hate to play favorites. Like that's a hard one, but I will say I was definitely brought in to an environment that, while being wildly intimidated, was incredibly accepting. So I got to stumble my way through a lot with a lot of grace, like with Ellen, a lot of grace from the actors to kind of go, okay, she's coming in pretty hot and heavy with my character and trying to establish her so fast. So I was like, okay, well, jumping in the deep end.
Right.
Chyler, you appear in something that like we would be remiss if we didn't ask any actor that they appear a part of if they were on our show, which is like you're in the notorious and famous, I should say, musical episode of Grey's where you get to sing. You have a solo, thank God, where you sing Breathe by Anna Nalick. What were the conversations going on behind the scenes of that musical episode? Were you and everyone else like on board immediately? Were y'all like terrified of like, what is the tone of a musical episode of this?
Didn't know about it until about a week before.
Oh my God.
I'm really happy that I will say, and I think it must be a testament a little bit to your talent, Chyler, but I feel like in every show you're a series regular on, like you get to do so much. Like I was like, oh, you're singing on the way home too. And I was like, and you're such a good singer. Like you get to do funny, you get to do emotion. Like obviously people are excited to have you on a show because you have like a big toolbox of skills that you bring to television for sure.
Aww.
It's true, though. It's like you are crying and then you're doing comedy and then you're singing. So it's like you get to show a lot on these shows.
You know what? I think I can chalk it up to my bipolar disorder. It's great. I love it in the back pocket. I have a slew and a very, very deep well of emotion and then energy in a minute. So I say that half-jokingly. But no, I thank you so much for saying that. That's very, very kind of you. I'm glad that they trust me. I kind of don't have much of a filter. I will say the scariest part out of all the things that I've done when given handed, deeply heavy crying scenes, or like with Supergirl, very stunt heavy stuff. Like I got handed so much, and the singing aspect of it was the most challenging and terrifying part of it, because that's me singing and that's my voice singing, and being so wildly critical of myself. I was always like, oh my God, what if I miss a note or my voice cracks in here? It's kind of like, it was easier for me to do stunts and easier for me to sob and scream and do all that stuff than it was to be as vulnerable as singing. And I don't know what the thing in my mind was. Like, I don't know where that kind of like fell into like my psyche or whatever, but it's funny. I can be wildly vulnerable on camera and in, you know, an interview. I have nothing to hide. Like I have no time for bullshit. I don't like, I'm a straight shooter. I'd rather you tell it to me straight than me find out later and then have to deal with the, you know, whatever ramifications those are. So I have a lot to stem from. I do realize that. And all jokes aside, it's like trauma in your own life teaches you how to cope, right? Or how to cover. It's fight, flight, or freeze, right? Those are natural human states. And I happen to have been through enough to give me, you know, plenty to put in my pockets and walk out and say, well, whatever, like, screw it. I'm up for the challenge. Throw me in, coach. I'm ready to play. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I'd rather have the challenge than not have to correct myself if I don't like what I did, than not be brave enough to take on the challenge and miss out on whatever growth could come from that.
Beautiful.
It's like very impressive that you're as good as you are in that musical episode. I just feel like it was a large task of what they were asking a lot of their cast to step into that.
And I had about an hour to record.
That's insane.
And I went in after listening to Sara Ramirez belting out the story.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, okay. Just breathe. I can't breathe. No, but like I loved every second of it, you know, especially filming it. It was so challenging. But we were all in. We were just kind of like, all right, is this going to be absolutely absurd? You know what I mean? Because it's like musical episodes can so often just be like jumping the shark and making everybody go, ugh. Or is it going to be kind of epic? And it's kind of epic.
Totally. It's like history at this point. This is television history.
Yeah.
For sure.
So, Chyler, there's scuttlebutt online, and you can comment or deny, but that, you know, basically they weren't sure. The production team wasn't sure if Ellen Pompeo was going to come back for season 9. And so that there was this talk that like, okay, we're keeping Lexi on in case we need another Grey for Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah, that did come up.
So they obviously, spoiler alert, kill you off at the end of season 8 in this very epic, you know, end of the plane crash of that season. But what can you say to that? Was that something you were aware of? Was it a stressful last season if those were parts of the conversation?
You know, they were like whisperings that I had heard. It was never like a full blown, hey, let's sit down and have this conversation. But I had heard, you know, through the grapevine that was definitely something that was on the table. At the same time, I was having a lot of like family issues that were coming up. Like I was pregnant all of season 5 on the show.
It's wild.
I had my daughter 10 days after we wrapped.
Oh my gosh.
And I had to induce her by a week because, and perfectly healthy, wasn't like some sort of like, oh, I suffer from my craft. Screw that, it's my baby. But that way I had 9 weeks with her before I got back on set.
Okay.
And so that being said, my kids are almost 3 years apart. So 2 years, 10 months, 2 years, 8 months. My son had just been diagnosed with Asperger's, and we were still, which was a long journey, and also ADHD. So we were going through a lot with him. He didn't start talking until he was 4. It was a lot of things that we were going through there. My middle, she, we later found out was diagnosed with very high functioning autism and like very high anxiety, kind of OCD tendencies. And then the youngest one was wound up, she's diagnosed with epilepsy and like a really severe case of epilepsy. So it was so much going on. And we had to have 2 nannies at one point because one had to be with Annie, the youngest with the seizures, all the time at all times. And the other 2, it was already challenging enough. So it hit a point where it was like, guys, I don't even know if I have the wherewithal to just walk into a room at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had a really lovely, very hard conversation with Shonda at the beginning, right before going into season 8, and said, listen, I could not be more grateful for everything that I've had. I'm exhausted and I don't know what to do without like my family suffering. And then my ex-husband was working on a music video with a friend of his out in Nashville. And because we were living in California, obviously, and went out there and was just like, I think that this would be a really beautiful place for us to be able to kind of take a step back, slow down for a minute, move out to Nashville. And at the time, at their children's hospital there, they had one of the top pediatric neurologists in the country.
Mm.
And so all of these pieces were kind of coming into place. And we were like, okay, I think we need to like really reevaluate. And so she was so gracious about that. And I knew the entire time that I was going to, like, that was going to be my last season. I was not allowed to tell anybody. So none of the cast knew. I didn't even know how I was going to die until the very end. None of the cast knew. When they found out was in the table read when we were reading the script.
Oh my God.
Hey.
And then I was, because we didn't get the scripts until literally the second that we sat down to read the scripts at the table. So we're always reading the scripts cold. And so some people were figuring out that's when they were being fired, was at the table read.
Oh boy. Okay.
Or like they have some wacky injury, like when Lexi breaks Mark's business. So it was a mind job. You know what I mean?
Totally.
That was really challenging. My last 2 days of filming on the show, we were at Big Bear and we were out. I was under the plane. Basically, my last 2 days of filming were under the plane. It was like 35 degrees outside.
Mm.
I'm covered in blood. And like, it was very fitting as an ending. And I didn't have to act very much. I kind of was just like, clang, find me, get me out from under the plane.
Oh, God.
No, it was an extraordinary experience. And I will always be grateful for that.
Yeah. I'm glad you were able to take the time and spend it with your family and be where you needed to be.
Yeah.
You got to come back in this amazing guest part in season 17, I believe, as a ghost, essentially. You're metaphysically meeting your sister Meredith on a beach while she's like in a COVID-induced coma. Our understanding is because this was shot during the pandemic, you were trapped in Canada shooting Supergirl and like couldn't travel. So you did the whole thing remote. Like, what did you act opposite someone in Canada who was like giving you the lines? Like, what did that shoot look like for you?
That was wild. It was all on, not even green screen. I don't know why it was blue screen, but I was acting to tennis balls.
Wow.
I'm just reading the dialogue off camera. Again, like being on Supergirl, I had to act with tennis balls all the time because that was going to be our alien in special effects, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I got this. So I don't know if you remember, but there's a part where I'm pushing her on the swing.
Yeah.
There was nothing. I'm pushing air. And I'm like, I could not feel more stupid than what is happening right now. But having spent so much time with them and having such deep emotional moments, I could anticipate how, like, what that connection, it never left. You know what I mean? It's like putting, you know, a pair of shoes that you haven't worn for so long, but they are still broken in. Like you just put it, you step into that and you go, okay, I can imagine like what this conversation will be like. And seeing it all cut together was incredible. Yeah, I couldn't go down because I would have had to quarantine for 2 weeks. And I was working every day, like a few days after that.
Mm.
So it's like, there was no way for me to do it, which was a bummer because I really would have loved to have been there with Ellen and of course, Eric, because that would have been the last time that I would have seen him.
Right.
Was during that.
You know, obviously we lost Eric Dane in February to ALS, and you're forever linked with him because of this, you know, the romance on the show.
Yeah.
Can you describe like what your working relationship with him was like? And have you been reflecting back on that time more now since his recent passing?
Absolutely. Eric had one of the kindest hearts. We had like a deep relationship, a respect for one another. And such a wonderful scene partner, and just having these amazing, like, philosophical questions. He's a deep, deep man that, it was really, really special working with him. We always were able to laugh even amidst the most absurd, or devastating circumstances. And I got to know him really well outside of the, McSteamy, Eric Dane outside,
Yeah.
So I will always look back fondly as far as that goes. And I've watched everything that he was on afterwards because I just loved the man. But it had been a while since I had connected with him. And then, I got the news. And then anything that I saw on social media afterwards it just blew up all over again. And it was all like scenes and moments and like the epic kisses or like the teach me moment, like all that kind of stuff. And then it just hit me at first. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened. I can't believe this happened. Because I found out that night that it had been posted, I had been doing press and stuff. So I didn't even see it until that happened. And Jeffrey, my publicist, called me and said, hey, I just want you to know, like, be prepared that, Eric passed. And because it was going to all come out that, I think the next day. And so I was like, oh my God, like, what? I didn't know how to comprehend it. And then it was on my plane ride from LA, from doing press, flying back to Nashville, that all of a sudden it just hit. I had to keep getting up and going to use the lavatory because I was just sobbing. And I don't want to say it in a insensitive way, but I didn't know it was going to hit me that hard, like, and especially that fast. So it was definitely like a grief. And now when I see the reels, it's not like, oh, I'm over it. I can kind of like be able to see past the absolute devastation of it. And then like be able to appreciate even more so those incredible moments that we had together.
Yeah. I'm so sorry for your loss. I know it's been probably a lot.
Yeah, it's been a lot. And for his daughters, like,
of course,
I can't even imagine. And how quickly he passed after being diagnosed like that. It's just shocking.
Yeah.
What a terrifying disease.
Yeah. Okay, Chyler, shifting gears here a little bit to something a little lighter. You play Supergirl's sister, Alex Danvers, who works with the DEO, the government agency dedicated to monitoring and combating extraterrestrial threats. Your character was created for this show.
Yeah.
Did you feel complete freedom then to create your own backstory for Alex, and like since she wasn't in the comic books? And if so, like, was she queer in your backstory?
I felt like it was such a unique opportunity to come into a very well-known comic book lore as an original character. And they did give me like a lot of just creative license to be able to figure out who this is. We had so many conversations. Greg Berlanti is absolutely phenomenal. And so we kind of crafted her as we went. And I did not find out that Alex was queer until right before we started filming season 2. I had no idea. And so Greg Berlanti was like, hey, so just want to have a conversation and, just kind of like get your feeling on this. This season we want Alex to have a coming out story. I was like, okay, I didn't see that coming. And he was like, are you down for that? I was like, absolutely. And he's like, but we really want to make this as impactful as possible, because here's a 28-year-old woman who is just now figuring out what those feelings were as she was growing up and allowing herself to kind of like even question what that would even be or look like. And then obviously, when we come to find out and it's Maggie Sawyer, that comes in, and just the way that she like throws Alex completely off, the track or whatever. It was really profound. And he kept saying, we really want to make this a huge TV moment. And so I said, listen, I want to be really real, and I want to make sure that we're on the same page, because walking into this, I want to absolutely do justice to the queer community and make sure that it is respectful and make sure that it's being handled carefully. And, Greg had shared that there was a story of a woman that he had met that was 77 and just discovered this about herself. And so I was like, I am all in. I want to make sure that we are on the same page the entire time. And it was like, go team, and I loved every aspect about that journey. I felt was done so tastefully and so tentatively, and like being so vulnerable in those moments. And honestly, her journey taught me a lot about myself and my own kind of coming into the understanding. I was like, I think I identify with a fair amount of this. Like, okay, that explains a lot from high school. A lot of things. And it helped me kind of really get to a point where I could accept like my own bisexuality, and that it's okay to feel that way. And to be honest, it was really interesting, because after Alex came out, after that storyline came out, there were a lot of people in my life that were like, we can't have our kids watch the show anymore now. Like, we're not going to tune into Supergirl anymore, because that's just not fundamentally like our family believes, or what our, the things that we want our children learning about. And so it lost some people, out of my life. And I was like, you know what? That, I guess, just, it is what it is. You can have your beliefs, and you can do, like, that's you. Go on. That's fine. Very eye-opening in that sense. So even if it wasn't like Chyler necessarily coming out at that point, to see the reaction of personifying somebody who had, been so brave as to come out, and that character being judged.
Yeah.
It was like this really like crazy situation, but the amount of feedback that I got from the community was astounding. And the amount of stories that I got of saying, oh my God, I actually have finally seen myself on TV. And like, these are the words that I feel like I could play this scene for my family member or my friend so that they could see it. And I can kind of like let those words come through Alex's mouth and kind of ease into the conversation of, see, that's how I feel. So I have had thousands, no joke, thousands of people that have come up to me between, the conventions or going out and playing music at venues and whatnot, come up and say, because of your storyline, and Alex's journey, when I found out you were going to be at this Comic-Con, when I found out you were going to be at this venue, I decided to stick around another day. So I could come and meet you and be there. And like the weight of it was so heavy. But honestly, the scene where Maggie and Alex break up, I knew how I just had this like deep feeling of how devastating this was going to be to a lot of people. And at the time I was speaking a lot with Twitter and kind of like going through messages with people and DMing, people. And I just had this horrible feeling of what it could turn into. And I was getting thousands of messages from people saying, I don't want to be here anymore. This was, this has broken my heart. It's broken my spirit. I can't do this. And I literally, I got reached out to the Trevor Project. And I spoke to the CEO at the time, and I was like, listen, I am not a licensed therapist. I can only do so much. I have had so many messages, and I don't know how to save everybody. I don't know how to help everybody. And so they were like, if you can just share, kind of like links and stuff on your page for people to call in. And I did. And I kept pushing it and pushing it. And I said, these are people that, are trained to do this and will have better words for you than I can. Just know that I love you and I care about you and every one of you matters. They ended up reaching out to me the next day at Trevor Project and said, this was the largest influx of calls and texts and messages we've ever had.
Wow.
And so it was like to see the impact of how powerful what we do as storytellers, can be. And the gratitude that I have, which is like such an underwhelming word for what I actually feel, but to have been part of so many iconic moments, and characters, I don't know how to quite articulate it other than if there's one person that tells me, hey, I'm here another day because of something you were a part of, or something your character said, or something that I've written like personally in like, essays or interviews, then I don't know what else, I could be here for that would bring me, except being a mother. Like I get to mother so many people and that's who I am as a person. So yeah, it's been a wild ride, guys. I have laid it on heavy, haven't I?
No, I love it. And I have to say, Supergirl was new to me. And as like a 42-year-old lesbian, I was like, oh my God, this is so good. This is very well written. The love scenes are really great. It feels like it doesn't shy away from things. It's a great coming out story, but it's not just about that. So I really can't recommend it enough to go back. If you're queer, if you love queer longing, if you love superhero things, go watch Supergirl. It really does like hold up to all of the internet speak. And I'm so like, welcome to the queer community. You've been here, but like, we're so glad to have you. Okay. Chyler, we have to get out of here, but we just have a couple last things. We call this a rapid fire. It's rapid for us, just to get in every last credit before we let you go.
Great.
Okay. You've done crossover episodes as Dr. Lexi Gray on Private Practice and as Alex Danvers on The Flash, Arrow, and Legends of Tomorrow. Do these crossover episodes feel like a whole other job, or does it just feel like showing up to the office for another day of work?
Yeah, it's just like a different friend group that you get to go play with, for the day, for a few weeks. It's so much fun. And especially like, being able to do the crossovers within the same genre or like work field that they're in, it's great. And then you get to laugh like with Supergirl, we would all laugh at each other at our costumes because you're just like, oh, yours is squeaky. There's one scene where there's 20 of us superheroes all shoulder to shoulder walking. I think they got one take of us not losing our minds laughing. And it was great. And giving each other advice like, oh yeah, you know what helped me with my cape? Oh yeah, you know what helped me with my holster? Like it was great. It was so much fun. It was great.
Yeah.
Okay, Chyler, you were on the Buzzy Fox series Reunion, which was meant to chronicle a year in the life of all of its main characters' lives from their high school years through their adult reunion where one of them was murdered. What is it about the Chyler Leigh that screams time travel?
Right? That's a good point. I don't know, multiple personality disorder, or like, having to keep, what it is? Having to keep going back and healing my inner child.
Yeah. Okay.
And then it came across on the television screen. Because even in Supergirl, my younger self is on Supergirl as well. And I directed an episode of Supergirl where it was an episode with my younger Alex and young Kara. And so it was like, I've had the wildest, coolest, most amazing experiences in my career. You guys are getting me so pumped right now.
Good.
Okay, hold on to your butt, because you and the rest of the cast of Not Another Teen Movie, which is where we discovered you, and you were so great in it, by the way. It's an underrated classic, I think. But you appear in the music video for Marilyn Manson's Tainted Love, which was featured on the film's soundtrack. You were even in a jacuzzi with old Marilyn Manson. Can you describe what was the vibe on that music video set?
It was interesting.
Great.
It was interesting. It was another experience where they told us nothing until we literally got there. And they were like, okay, now for this part, you're going to walk in over here and do this, and you're going to switch, and then you're going to be in a bikini, and you're going to have a choker with spikes, and then we're going to put goth makeup on you. And then, we hear over here, Jamie Presley is like trying to get into a room with people wearing bunny costumes, and like,
it's a very acid trip. Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, all night, all I kept hearing was like over the radio. No one would talk to me about it. It's like, okay, yeah, our final shot is going to be when Chyler gets in the tub with Manson and the two Penthouse girls. But no one would tell me. And it was literally the last shot of the music video as the sun was rising. And we had to film that so fast. And I was like, I don't know how to feel right now. It was what it was. It used to be my favorite 80s song.
It's forever tainted now, ironically.
I have a tainted love for it now.
Yeah. Okay, Chyler, last question. It's important and convoluted. Go with us on this. In our research, we found Dancing with the Stars fan fiction, where people were theorizing how good you would perform on that competition show. They gave you Derek Huff as your dance partner and you got perfect scores. The fan fiction said that it was like you were even performing the Roomba. Week 7, How to Save a Life by The Fray as a nod to your Grey's Anatomy time, where you received a perfect score of 30, 3 perfect 10s. Did you know people did this, and would you ever do Dancing with the Stars?
I did not know that was a thing.
We were screaming when we found it.
They would ever nominate me. I am a terrible dancer. I can dance on my own. I can do my own thing and groove. I don't know how to be led. Like, I want to lead. So
I think you'd be good. You're musical. You're very charming. I think you'd be good.
You know what? To do choreography, like dance choreography for a film, I think would be like a massive challenge for me, for sure. I think the only thing that would lend itself to help me is stunt coordinating. When I had to do all the fight coordinating and all that kind of stuff, which I loved the adrenaline of it. Oh my God, it was so much fun. But dancing, what I do, I would have to genuinely like train for that because I would be so terrified.
I feel it in your future. I'm going to say this for real.
Also, you could be the lead and you can have a partner of your choosing. You don't have to. JoJo Siwa did it with a woman and it was great.
Maybe I could dance with a lady.
Yes. See, this is what I'm saying.
A person.
A person. You're putting it into the ether, whether it's that or a musical. We're ready. Chyler Leigh, thank you so much for joining us on You Might Know Her From today. This was such a pleasure.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I hope I didn't just like wildly talk your ears off.
No. We're so grateful. Thank you for being candid and fun and easy. I sound like a broken record, but it really is the pleasure of this show where you get to dive into somebody's work and you're like, wow, she is so good. Chyler Leigh is forced to do so much emotional heavy lifting in every single one of her big TV roles. And, you know, she's a ringer. It's like you need somebody to access this right beneath the surface. She's got you. And I just think about how hard that is on TV when you're on such a tight schedule. I mean, film too, but it's like, you've got to come in and do this super dramatic scene. You've got to cry. You've got to have this emotional breakdown. You've got to maybe do 5 takes. It's a workout. And I do think that she really elevates all of the TV material that we got to see her do. And I was just like so impressed. And then going back and revisiting Not Another Teen Movie, I was like, oh, she's such a great physical comedian. Like, she is so multifaceted. And I really loved getting to see so much of her work in such a tight window because I was so impressed. And I think I wasn't aware of the depth of her talent. And it was just like so impressive to get to see her do so much different kind of work. And then to talk to her, she is like really vulnerable, really available, really candid and funny and has really great perspective. And I was just like, oh, I love Chyler Leigh. Love Chyler Leigh.
Love Chyler Leigh. You know, I loved the pond talk. You know, I loved the pond talk. Her talking about our water. What was the word? The water specialist, the water quality, whatever. And I was like, I am in like, wow. I'm like humana. Listening back, I was like, oh, I don't remember her talking about like the water. I was like, makes sense. Water safety team. And I was like, water safety. I was like, it makes sense if they like dive into a pond. Yeah. And then they also were then like in the DP's backyard in like Toronto or Vancouver or wherever in Canada the way home shot. I loved it. I loved all of those behind the scenes. And I will say, folks, that sometimes we hang, and I think I'm more guilty of this than Anne, where like our opinions, I'm like, do I hate this person now because Anne hates them? Or like, do I hate this because, and Anne's thing used to be like, she hates time travel as a plot device. And I was like, I think I like it. And I was reminded watching The Way Home, I was like, I'm into this because it's like so crazy because they are jumping back in time. And then you're like, oh, well, is it messing with what's happening in present day? I can't say more. You have to watch. But I was very tickled by the show and loved the time travel thing. And I was reminded about like the Tomorrow People. Do you remember the Tomorrow People when we were young? It was on Nickelodeon. I was just reminded that like time travel as a plot device, I'm sorry to say to this day, you, Anne, face to face, I think I like it.
Oh my gosh, this is a huge revelation. And you know what? I support you. I support each of us coming together, but also challenging each other with our own individualized personalities.
You used to, for years, say you hated a bike and riding a bike and people who ride bikes.
Yeah.
And you know what you do now? A bike rider.
Yeah. To be fair, I haven't in years, but I did during the pandemic, I did ride my bike to work and I learned how to like properly ride a bike in New York. And I was like a newfound sense of freedom. And I said, guess what? We all evolve, we all change and grow.
Exactly.
And that is the beauty of the gift of age is if you get to live longer, hopefully you get to evolve and change your opinions if they deserve changing.
And hopefully you can time travel when you get old. So you can go back to when you were young and change some things around. Folks, thank you so much for being here. We hope that you like what we're doing. And if so, that you will share with your friends, tell them, leave us a review. If you're really loving it, you can subscribe to our Patreon where we are doing a Liza Minnelli book club. We are recapping Amy Madigan films. We are talking to Didi Fuego from RuPaul's Drag Race and our friends Andy and Naomi from Couples Therapy. We're doing all kinds of little fun little things over there. So go to patreon.com/YouMightKnowHerFrom, and you can also find us on Instagram and TikTok at the same handle.
Folks, like Damien said, this is an independently produced podcast by our LLC, Duck You Dragon. That's Damien Bellino and Ann Rodeman. We put this together by the skin of our teeth. Of course, we have the extra special gift of our editor, Adam Brown. Adam slices and dices to make us sound as best as we can, and we appreciate you so much, Adam.
All that music you hear underscoring each and every episode of You Might Know Her From is by Gang. Gang is from Philly, near where I'm from, 3/4 women. We love Gang. You can stream their music wherever you listen to your bops.
And if you need to see why the song Tainted Love is Forever Tainted for Chyler Leigh, you're going to go to the show notes where I link out every single thing that we talk about, clips, topics, things that I can easily re-reference 7 years later. That's what I spend my time doing. Please discover them. Were you ever a person that wore colored contacts?
Babe, no.
I just thought maybe you might have experimented when you were a teenager, because when we were like 13 to 18, it was like, that was my first memory of them hitting the market. You could buy them at Gadzooks or Spencer's Gifts, which I know is verboten in your household.
My mom will love this if she ever listens to the end of the episode.
I just remember kids like came to school and you're like, oh my God, you've got like lizard eyes, or lavender was very popular in my school. And I remember
you would buy them at Spencer's and they would be like non-prescription.
Correct.
Oh,
Wait, you never see. Okay, so was this a thing anywhere else? Like they were like $15. They were like relatively
They seem like
accessible.
a thing I would have been into.
That's
and I would have made my eyes like extra blue, even though my eyes are already light.
Baby blues.
Yeah, I would have made them like baby blues.
We both have
like
blue
you.
eyes.
Of course. We've talked about it.
Yeah,
baby eyes.
We got baby eyes. I just thought it might have been something you would have explored. You know, like 13 to 18, when you're in middle school and high school, it's like I tried on a lot of different versions of self, as I think most kids do. And it's like, I never did color contacts because I had to wear real contacts and my eyes are legitimately really, really bad. If you have a bad prescription, by the way, send it to me, DM it to me, because I need to know how high it is. Anytime somebody says, I have bad eyes, I said, what's your prescription? I'm not going to tell you.
Would you ever get LASIK?
I'm not a candidate, Damien. My eyes are too bad.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And no, I won't, because the scar tissue has not been evaluated. And then it's like, you're going to need, it's like it fades over time. There's not enough research on it, et cetera.
This woman, Heather Pugliese, who I went to high school with, she used to have colored contacts, and I assumed that they were prescription, but she was like, I have ones that are like yellow with like purple flowers on them. And I was like, what? So I would like ask her to like wear some to like, I'd be like, oh, can you really wear these for like honors English? And
I love that you just got that honors English slip in.
You know I would. You know I would. You know I would. Yes, but I always wanted color contacts, and I always am trying to think of a Halloween costume idea where I can have like white out eyes, because I think it seems fun. But my eyes are light, so why would I want to wear brown eyes, you know?
You got to get the milky eyes, and you can be like Frances Conroy in, what is that? Is that
American Horror Story?
Yeah.
Milky. I always have, whenever I think of milky eye, I always think of milky
white breasts. That was erotic.